Along group life insurance is our topic that we're going to be chatting about today. Let's talk about overall what is the difference between group life insurance because it really relates to the business level, right? So if there's anybody that's a general manager or secretary or a business owner, so on and so forth, this is probably a good topic for them today, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is individually is you buy your own policy to meet your needs, and then group is for the whole employer.
Okay, awesome. And right out of the gate, people do ask about that. Is it better to go alone on your own, or is it better to ultimately go in a group policy? And I put a caveat on that, and that is it different this day and age versus maybe 5 years or 3 years ago or 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think it's the same, Chris, in terms of answering that second part first. It really hasn't changed over the years. And the reason for it is life insurance has a lot of different needs that people come up with. And arguably the biggest need, until your kids are all grown and you've paid off your mortgage, is to have income replacement. Okay. So normally employer or group plans provide 1 or 2 times your income, or a flat amount like of $25,000. Okay. So normally, if you're going to replace income, a lot of people look at up to 10 times their income that they would own individually. Okay. So that's where most of our policies are sold, is on the individual side. Okay. But State Farm also offers group life insurance as well.
All right. And from an employer standpoint, do you see employers hesitating from signing up for group insurance, or just saying, hey, from an individual standpoint, we're paying you at this rate, it's probably easier for you to go out on the individual plan?
And I would say that's probably as widespread in terms of the spectrum as many things are in life, right? Okay. There's a lot of employers that would, definitely say, I think this is important. Mm-hmm. I want to provide this as a benefit for my staff, and others would say, literally, I just can't afford it. Mm-hmm. There's small business, because half of the people in our counties, locally in our rural areas, they work for small businesses, mm-hmm. where there are less than 50 people, and many of them are less than 10 people.
Where do you see that threshold, if you don't mind, in regards to a business saying, okay, maybe we should put this as part of the benefits package that we offer somebody for new employment or existing employees? It's certainly not when it comes to 3, 5, 6, maybe 10 employees, right? Or is there kind of that threshold?
Well, for State Farm, the minimum is 5 mm-hmm. in terms of a group life, and every life insurance company has their own, statistics or requirements for the group life. So for State Farm, we can do a group as small as 5 and go up from there. And I would say that's pretty good rule of thumb that I've seen and heard. But most people that get really good benefits typically work for a larger company mm-hmm. where they get short-term, long-term disability, they get life insurance, they get a retirement plan. Those aren't always the smaller companies. But the cool thing about what we're trying to do is meet those small business needs on an everyday basis and try to connect with those small business owners to help them provide benefits to keep people longer.
All right. And I have a list of advantages, and we just want to kind of go down them a little bit. But federal income tax deductible premiums, what are you talking about when it comes to that?
Well, basically, the employer is going to be able to look at that as an expense and actually write that check, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, that they write, the group life insurance premium, mm-hmm. That's an expense that they can write off.
Okay. All right.
So that helps. So you get this benefit on the side of the employees, but at the same time, you get that tax benefit on the employer side.
All right. Desirable fringe benefit to offer new employees. I think that's pretty explanatory, but do you see that as more of a benefit these days? Is it, are new employees looking for that, or are they looking for the higher wage? What have you heard?
Yeah, so, it's more than just heard. I've experienced. Yeah, absolutely. I am a small employer, so those that are listening and watching, I know what that space looks like and what that feels like. And we've all really come through that, especially mm-hmm. through COVID, in the last 3.5 years or so. But I guess my biggest takeaway would be is we're in a competition for employees. Mm-hmm. Right, in our county, like most areas, still have more needs for new employment to get new employees than not. Okay. And so we're still trying to hire, even though there's parts of the economy definitely slowing down. Mm-hmm. Most employers are still trying to trying to hire. So I would say, that's where if you're competing, not even against your competitor in the same industry, you're competing just amongst the entire employment world, trying to recruit and solicit and keep people at your place of business. This is just one of those arrows in your quiver, if you will, about, recruiting people to your business and keeping them at your business.
All right. Another advantage, they say, is reducing turnover, as you'd mentioned just a moment ago, saving money in hiring and training costs as well. Why do you think it saves us money in training those new employees?
I think let's just say the most astute people, and perhaps the ones that you want the most are going to be the ones that understand this space and how important it is. If you will, a holistic employee, an employee that kind of has an understanding of the needs and the risks of their life. Everyday life has risks all around us.
Okay.
And so if you think about, adults, in our community that are providing for a significant other or spouse or for kids, they're working really hard to make sure that whole package is. And so I think from an educational standpoint, they get it better. You're going to recruit a little bit higher level person that understands how these things work, and you're going to keep them because they know the value of that benefit. And if other companies don't have that benefit, you have a higher chance of keeping them longer.
Good point there. Contributions to employee security, loyalty, and higher morale, and the kind of dovetails off of that, what you had mentioned, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, when they look at a lot of lists of why people work at wherever they work, let's say it's a top 10 list. And most people know this, but, number 4, believe it or not, 5 is income.
Okay.
Is the pay. It's the morale, it's the
true.
things that are going on in the office, it's the benefits, it's the paid time off, especially when something's going on in their family. Those things all play a huge role into the top 10 of recruiting people and getting them to stay. So if they feel like, hey, this is a great, comfortable, safe place with great morale, heck yeah, I want to be here. This is where I want to be.
Yeah, very good point. When it comes to life insurance, if somebody has a policy already, because health insurance is kind of very different, obviously. If I have a life insurance policy and I am hired at that new employer, am I more apt to take their life insurance policy or add it to, or what's that formula? What's that scenario like?
Yeah, I think what we refer to it in the life insurance business. By the way, it's Life Insurance Awareness Month of the month of September nationally. So I think people understand that there's a certain need that they have in what we call death benefit. Okay. So those are fancy words to say, well, how much coverage do I need? Do I need 25,000? Do I need 100? Do I need $1 million? And a big part of most people that are in their working years, in their income earning years, is they need to replace income. Okay. If you're no longer with us, you prematurely pass away, that income is going to be gone for your family. And it's so difficult. I always call it adding injury to insult. That's a very powerful thing to know. And so you come up with a need. Let's just say it's $250,000. And you have $25,000 that they give you free at work. Okay. And you can buy up to another 100. Okay, at work. It's pretty economical typically to buy that extra at work, but you still have a $125,000 need. Well, how do you fill that gap? You fill it by getting your own policy that you own and control, even if your next employer doesn't have life insurance. Okay. Which happens, right? You go, I had it here, now I don't. Holy cow. Well, when you have that $125,000 in this example, you've locked in for that usually a term period of time that you've got the coverage and it can't be taken away from you because you own the policy. This is the difference. You own it and control it. Don't have to worry about changing jobs, whether or not they're going to have benefits for you or not, because somebody may pay an extra $10 an hour and they don't have benefits. And you do the math. Hey, that's a great deal, but I got to go get my own life insurance now.
Good point there. Because when you leave that employer, the life insurance doesn't pass on.
No, it does not.
It's gone.
Very, very rare.
Okay.
It's the biggest typically what I would call blue chip or Fortune 500 companies that sometimes allow you to keep it, but it's really, really rare in our communities in northwestern Michigan.
Okay. What about the idea, and by the way, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance about group life insurance. And this is great for the individual as well as the employer that we're talking about in regards to this topic this morning. Does it ever extend to family members like healthcare insurance can?
Yeah, there's definitely an option for spouses, significant others, and children. Typically what I see is those are often bigger companies that have that kind of ability to spread the risk over more people. I don't always see that with maybe some of the smaller groups. So what Chris is really saying here is, I want to get it for myself from the group, but can I also get it for my wife and for my kids? And I would think in our community, only a handful have that. It would be the schools, it would be the hospital. Some of our major employers here would have those type of benefits. Most companies would not have, that depth of benefit for everybody else.
What's the questions that as a new employee we should be asking of that company? What are the top 2 or 3 that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, and you're thinking in benefits or just in terms of group life, Chris?
In terms of the group life insurance.
Okay. Well, I think it's just understanding first and foremost, it's about what your family will get if you pass away, right? Life insurance is for the living. And that seems funny. It's like a lot of people want to call it death insurance, but it's for the living. So really it's that lump sum of money that your family are going to get. And I think that's the focus of no matter what it is that we sometimes get off on what kind of policy it is or how much it is. Those are obviously very important for people's budget. But what's more important is, what do I really want to leave my family if something does happen to me? And coming up with that number and then saying, okay, now what type of policy is it and what can I afford?
All right. And should people wait? Because again, there's that time period. You're a new employee. Do you think that the group life insurance can start right away, or is that typical that you have to wait a certain period of time?
Well, a lot of times there's a waiting period on health insurance, some of your other benefits, where you have to wait, 60, 90 days, sometimes even, as much as 180 days for retirement, so you really, as an employee, need to understand really clearly. And when you're comparing, let's say you really like both these companies that you're going to go to work for, and they're both recruiting you, they both want you. I would recommend just creating a little sheet, putting a line down the middle, and seeing which benefits make sense to you on both sides of that equation on that sheet, and then rank it. Like, how important is this? Okay, how long do I have to wait? How much is that benefit? And I'll have to tell you that most people don't take the energy and effort to do that. And I get it. Most people don't always have 2 job opportunities at the same time. But if you do and you have that benefit, man, do your homework. Really dive in and say, you know what? It's worth it to me. It might as well you got to look at the whole package, because, benefits can be, I think, 35, 45% of person's overall income.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People forget about that. Like, oh, what are you making per hour or whatever? Or how much do you make in your salary? Well, that's an important number. But from the group benefits standpoint, and we're talking about group life, that can be a huge number as well for the employer and a benefit to you and your family.
All right, last question before we wrap up is, from the employer standpoint, is there any sort of the assumptions that might be wrong that they have assumed, and then they walk into your office and they're like, oh, I thought this, but it's really that?
Yeah, I would say probably just, understanding how it works, and when you add people, and just, what's the timing of that? When do I have to pay? And I think that's where we come into play, where it's like, okay, who's on your current, what we would call census, and that would qualify, because you have to, in your handbook as an employer, by the way, you should have a handbook, is to quantify specifically, when are these benefits going to come into play? And I think a lot of times there's some confusion that you got to relook at it, but it should be really clear on the benefit sheet, how long it takes for them to qualify for it and to be able to get it, and lock that down yourself. And then be able to share that, typically on a 1-page sheet is what I would recommend to employers, so that you have that easy, accessible, how long it takes, what the contact numbers are, and to help your employee really take control. And then they're going to see the value that you care. The powerful thing here, right, about retaining people is that you care enough to be in this space to try to see if your business can afford these extra benefits. Because most employers go, I have no idea how I'm going to be able to afford this. And so just to take the time and understand that benefit could have more value than the expense that you're actually looking and spending
And that's
elsewhere.
the goal. Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance, located between Ludington and Scottville. If people want to contact you in regards to this or any other topic that we've covered, how can they do that?
Yeah, the best way is we have walk-in services. I have staff that's available 9 to 5. We are by appointment. Again, we're just a half mile east of Meyer, but you can also reach us on the phone. So if you got something to write with, it's 231-757-3115 or go to ludingtoninsurance.com.
All right. Sounds good. Erin, we appreciate you always, and keep up the great work as you do with all of your team.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate the time.
You got it. It is 8:37 now here on Hot Country Hits 99.9 and 102.7 WMOM. And if you missed any of this segment, you can watch it in its entirety on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. So check it out right there. It's Hot Country Hits 99.9 and 102.7 Mom FM.
We take for granted our vision in many cases. A lot of things can happen to an eye before